Now, welcome to the show, the Journey of Theme podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Allen. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoy it. And if you do enjoy it, please consider subscribing to Stroke TV Media on YouTube. Today's topic is going to be waking from a coma. I am getting ready to write a book in 2025 called Stroke, My Journey Within. Not that journey within. My book could be called Stroke, My Journey Within. And I'm doing these podcasts, these series of telling my story to kind of get my thoughts going and get the juices flowing, get ready to write my book. I will publish my book by the end of 2025. But I really wanted to talk about today. I want to talk about waking from my coma. You know what's strange? I was probably in that coma for, I say about 2.5 weeks, when I've been told. And I'm going to tell you how I felt. Let me just back up and just tell you how I felt. I guess I can remember everything. My life changed as fast as lightning strikes. But how did I feel when I first woke up from a coma? I felt dazed, lost, confused. Let me share this. I didn't know I was in a coma for 2 weeks. I did not know that 2 weeks of my life had passed by without me being awake for it. It was new. I was totally just oblivious to that. But the first thing I noticed was I was extremely sound and light sensitive. I knew that my body, my brain, something terrible had happened to me. Because I was not myself. My brain felt like it was on fire. My left side of my body, I couldn't move it. I would get paralyzed. And it scared me to death. In fact, if you remember your reaction when you first when you first woke from your stroke, put it in comments, please. I'd love to hear it. Because I can remember one of the first things I couldn't left side of my body. I could roll over. I got nothing. So here I am. As far as I knew, I was got up in the morning, and then 2.5 weeks later woke up at coma. I'm in the hospital. And this one this first thing. I noticed that I had all kinds of IVs in my arm. I could feel a tracheotomy in my throat. I was, to use the word scared or terror is an understatement. I can't even put into words what I felt. I felt absolutely lost. I felt terror. That's the best word I can have to give you is terror. I felt this overwhelming sense of terror that I could not even put words to. I felt the two come out of my head. You ever heard those saying, I need that like a hole in the head? Well, I have one of those. I have a hole in my skull. Probably I would say about 3/16 in diameter. They take a drill, they drill a hole in my skull, and insert a tube to relieve the pressure from my brain swelling. But I'm sure they didn't use like a Milwaukee or something. But I'm telling you right now, I can feel that whole man. I can feel the knots they kind of grew to my skull, so the tube would lay flat in it. But you know when it woke up by coma, I felt, like I said, the closest human word I've got is terror. Because now I felt like my brain was on fire. I couldn't move my left side of my body. There was alarms going off everywhere in the hospital. I was light sound sensitive. Like I said, terrifying. Terrifying is a word that comes close. And like I said, remember, this podcast, from now on, I'm trying to change the way my podcasts feel, energy wise. I want them to be all about us, all about the energy between you as an audience member and me as host. But I want us to connect on the energy level. So if you remember your moment when you woke up out of your stroke, put it in chat. I'd love to hear about it. What do you remember the most of waking up? You know, for me, the being light and sound sensitive, I want to just touch on one thing. And this really for you caregivers or family members or people that are around the person that just had the stroke. Your brain just went through a massive assault. It's on fire. You're light and sound sensitive. And so the hospital on the norm will not turn the ceiling lights off. Please do that. Do your stroke survivor a favor and turn the lights off on the ceiling. There's nothing worse than just having a stroke and look up at the lights of the ceiling and it burns your brain. It hurts, basically, and sound sensitive. When you come into the room as a caregiver or a family member, be quiet as you can. Don't worry about talking to stroke survivor. Remember, our brains just through assault, very serious assault, and we're a lot more sound sensitive. So that you don't have to talk. Your instinct is to talk. You don't have to talk. Just come over, take the hand of your stroke survivor, and just don't say a word. Just hold their hand and pray for them. That's it. I was mute, but I could not speak. I was known as what they call locked-in syndrome. I could hear all things around me, but I couldn't speak. I couldn't interact with people around me. And there was there was nothing more. I can almost now I'm gonna cry. There was nothing more scary for me, more terrifying than not being able to tell my wife I'm scared to death, and I love her so much. She never left my side the whole time I was in the hospital. So I just, it's funny how many of us, I'm one of them, have post traumatic stress syndrome. I don't know of any stroke survivor that cannot go through that assault, highly traumatic assault, and not come out with PTSDs. You know, it's funny. I was watching a video, a guy that was just like me, who just had a stroke on YouTube and they were filming it. But he was all limp, couldn't really coordinate his body all at all. There was a feeding tube hanging out of his nose, and he looked all dazed, confused. That's it. I began to cry hysterically. I did. I began to cry, going over this on I think we're on chapter 6 now um, of this podcast, my story. But I will make sure that book they a lot more detail. I'll sit there and go through it and give a lot more thought and you're breaking down my to remember. But anyway, so purchase my book when this come out. Again, it's gonna be called Stroke, My Journey Within. But you know when you first wake up out of stroke, I can't even describe I felt totally disconnected from reality, totally scared. I cried numerous times. My brain hurt. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move my left side of my body. Again, terrified is the terror. Terror is the only thing that I come up with is the word terror. Probably the closest thing I have. I think any of us that have gone through that know that terror, that thing that when you first you last thing you know you're normal, and then next thing you know, laying in the hospital with spitting it onto life. That was me, peeps, spitting it onto life. As you know, I'll be putting a link to the main where I've gone through my story this far. But you know, went through a near death experience. That really does come into play later because I'm just hanging on and trying to absorb what is happening in the moment. Last thing I remember, I'm fine. Next thing you know, I'm laying in the hospital near death. Not knowing at the time, almost 3 weeks of my life had gone by and I was gone. I wasn't there. I was out of it. I was in a coma. But I think probably that really made it worse. That really, if I were to say there's one thing that made it worse, when I was mute, I couldn't tell my wife I loved her. I couldn't tell her I was scared to death because I couldn't cry because I was scared beyond any words. And like I said, terror is a closest thing that I can come to is the word terror. And then I realized then, after seeing all these things, that I was realized that my life was a very threatening situation. I was at a place in my life where I could die at any moment. There's no doubt. I was overcome with fear. Yet so many times in our community, especially in newer stroke survivors, I can relate to this. It probably took me a year and a half before it became cognitive. Otherwise, I was like a deer in the headlights. If you did take and put 50,000 volts in my brain, that's the way it felt. I kept my brain, all I could hear was this hum, this like energy hum in my brain because it dips through the assault of a brain aneurysm and stroke. I think probably, and then I couldn't roll over because I was paralyzed. And I couldn't sit up at the edge of bed because my balance was gone. Right now, I could never even dream about doing what I'm doing right now. One, I'm talking. Two, I said the vertical on wheelchair with no help. I could not do that at the beginning when I first started coming out of my coma and my stroke. You hear about those people that while in the coma heard people talking to them. I didn't hear a thing. I was completely out of it. But I have to tell you kind of a funny side note. Well, not really funny, but I was a smoker. I smoked cigarettes. I was fully addicted to cigarettes. About 2 last weeks, about 3 days before I woke up out of coma, the doctors kept asking my wife, was I on any drugs? Was I doing any drugs? Because I'm not waking out of my coma. I wouldn't wake up. So they said, when finally told them I was a smoker, guess what they did? They put a nicotine patch on me. I woke up 2 hours later. Just amazing. My brain had this nicotine dose and woke up. So again, I don't want to beat the dead horse, but you know, there's something that I need to make clear to anybody out there that has a stroke survivor, relative, spouse, whatever. Turn out the lights on the ceiling and be quiet. Don't feel like gotta go in and talk to them. It won't do any good. The brain's fried, just toast. Best thing you can do is be quiet, hold her hands. But there's a saying that as fast as lightning strikes, I became a stroke survivor. How many of you, like me, took your life for granted? If there's one thing that I realize now that I did, is I took my wife for granted, I took my life for granted, I took everything I could do for granted. Don't do that, peeps. When you hear birds singing, like now it's springtime, so lots of birds out in the morning, just take a minute and absorb the sound, the energy of the sound. Absorb the energy of the sun. Absorb the energy of the ocean, whatever it is in your life. Don't take it for granted. Just pause and say, man, it's awesome to experience this. It's awesome to be able to do this certain task. Because, like 40 million of us in this world, we cannot undo what happened to us. We cannot go back and experience how easily again. So just don't take your life for granted. What happened to me could happen to you. Do you know I can raise our stroke awareness? Do you know a stroke occurs every 40 seconds in the United States? I mean, in this podcast, in this 30 minutes we had together, there's been, let's say, there's one every 1 minute. There's 30 strokes that happened in the US. I'm saying that if you smoke, stop. If you're overweight, lose weight. Just eat healthy. Because I'm telling you, there are things you can do to lower your risk of stroke or heart attack. And I'll be doing a segment coming up in the future that will address that exact issue. How to reduce your risk factors. But here we are down the end of the show. But hey, one thing I remember waking up in coma. I was grateful to be alive, but I was so scared. So, but thank you so much for being here. Leave me a comment. Tell me what you think. I'll put the link to the playlist of my story so far. We're just getting there. But thank you, everybody, for watching this video. And as my brother Roland Taco, God rest his soul, as my brother Roland Taco used to say all the time, expand, enjoy.